Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. So what are we talking about today? Yes, I absolutely believe that artificial intelligence will change a lot about the knife world, right? To simplify it, it's going to change a lot of things about the designs that we see, right? I think we're going to see a lot of wacky, crazy stuff, right? That's just crazy and goofy for the sake of being crazy and goofy. We already see that, right? But I also feel like it's going to solve a lot of issues. This definitely, at some point, could be used to take the issues or the problems that are, part of every folding knife and not necessarily eliminate them, but make them far more capable, right? I'm generalizing. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's obvious that this is going to change the way a lot of things work. You could argue that it's going to change the way that everything works, right? And then we start talking about all of the scary stuff, right? Have you seen The Matrix? They eventually take over the world. Okay, pump the brakes. Yes, I've seen The Matrix, right? A lot of our fears are coming from, this topic and our perception of artificial intelligence that is based on movies that we have seen, right? Now, I'm not saying that there aren't problems associated with this stuff. Obviously, there are, right? But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to reduce it to a simple topic. No, but seriously, Complex, you really should. Okay. But for today, let's talk about pocket knives and how it's going to change, right? This is if you've ever looked into how artificial intelligence generates art, right? I looked at that and I was like, I feel like this is how people responded. I was like, so computers can make art, right? Okay. Oh wow. Ooh. Oh my God. That's how I saw it, right? I was like, oh my gosh, right? And so initially, this is what we do. We get, and people who create art for a living got really nervous, and for good reason, because it's really hard to differentiate between something that is created by a human being and something that is created by a machine, right? If you sort of type in, I'm not going to pretend for a second to understand exactly how artificial intelligence works, right? I'm a simple, mushy little meat bag of a human being with a dumb, lumpy little human brain trying to understand how computer think, right? And some people know it, understand it better than me, and that's fine. I don't want to. I'm not going to turn this into a competition, but. You look at how, it's like you're like, here's what I want, computer. Can you make this? And then the computer would be like, okay, and this process has become more and more and more refined over time. Now you can do that, and the computer can be like, I know what you think you want. Let me make something that will blow your stupid little human brain apart, right? And it's like, wow, it's amazing. It's incredible. And people see this, and here's the problem. Here's the obvious problem with that. Right? It wasn't created by a person. It was created by this machine, right? We don't want to give this machine too much control or too much power because it can eliminate a lot of, what people use to generate their income, right? And they're going to start taking over our jobs. They're going to take all this, right? We've been using artificial intelligence in, more primitive forms to do our bidding for a while, right? This is the next step, right? If you create art, digital art, you're using a computer to do that, right? And so we've been doing that. I'm not saying that, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, I'm not saying that it's not going to become a problem. It obviously is. I think artificial intelligence is definitely going to create a problem for a lot of people, and it does have the potential to take revenue away from, a consistent source of revenue away from people who have been dependent on that for a long time, right? It can do this now. It can do this without our help, right? This is going to make some things, for some people, it's going to be an incredible tool. It will be the catalyst for success for a lot of people, right? I think some business owners, some Individuals, some massive companies will obviously be able to utilize this to their benefit, right? And again, I know that the urge, right, the extreme urge right now is to talk about all of the evil things and all of the evil ways that this incredible godlike power can be wielded, but I'm just going to try to reduce it to pocket knives, right? Because I don't want to lose control of the comment section. As soon as I decided, I want to talk about artificial intelligence, I'm going to put it in the thumbnail. As soon as I decided to do that, I was like, man, I'm just asking for a firestorm. So what are you going to do? I can't control it. But being able to, the fact that artificial intelligence can create art, right? Let's just say two-dimensional art. It can create that, on such a complicated scale, right? Or at a complicated level. Is it that crazy to think that it can create three-dimensional art, right? If you hook up a massively advanced AI and I understand it's not this simple, you hook it up to a 3D printer, right? And give it unlimited resources, and you're like, hey, make whatever you think's gonna work for this, right? Here's my problem, right? Here's the equation. I'm trying to make this, but I'm running into this problem. Here's the issue right here, right? So here's the stuff. Here's your tools, right? Here's your workbench, and you just think away. Well, yeah, it's gonna solve the problem, right? Maybe not initially, but eventually, because this stuff learns all the time, right? So a lot of people, I'm sure, is like, this freaking goofball is sitting here talking about something he clearly doesn't understand. Yeah, that's exactly what you're watching. You're watching a guy stand over a table full of pocket knives, do his best to try and, describe how these things work. And I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. But this essentially is going to be the case, right? And for a while, in a while, after a small period of time, I think that, there will be OEMs who essentially do this, right? Based on past sales, past success with this element, right? We seek to evolve, capitalize on this, but evolve at the same time. So we're trying to make a version 2 of this, right? So here you go, machine. You have, this is what we're going for. We want to use this, and this, right? We want to take all of our best cards, right? The recipe for success, and we're going to punch it in here. And what we want you to do for us is poop out a more goldener egg, right? That we can sell to the knife community. And that's what it will do. Right? And this will be utilized to target specific demographics. I mean, this is already happening. Like, who am I kidding? Like this, and if you think that this hasn't happened yet, it's absolutely taking place in many forms, and it has been, I think, for years. But that's what we're gonna see, right? If you're like specifically, you're sitting and watching, you're consuming specific types of content surrounding the knife world, right? So the algorithms in place already know what type of stuff you like. That's how it knows what to recommend to you, right? And these companies, they probably also have a lot of this information, right? They have a lot of this like demographic information. They know like this is what people like. This is what our customers like based on this data, blah, blah, blah. And they take all of this all of this information is very honed and specific information, and they just make the next best thing for these people that want to have the next thing. And the computer goes, beep, beep, boop, okay, No, obviously not really. But yeah, that'll happen. And for a while, I think it'll be really, really interesting. Now, what happens after that, I have no idea. You start trying to predict the events leading up to, the exact moment of, and the moment after the hypothetical singularity, and my brain gets a little bit of too much of a workout, right? I don't know that I really care to speculate too much, but it is going to be really, really interesting for a bit. We're going to see some really wacky stuff. We're definitely going to see some cool stuff, right? And, while there are definitely people who exist on this planet who think that knives have evolved to a point where there is no reason to push further, they were never meant to be more capable than they were back, when the Buck 110 was like the newest, most amazing thing. I think those people are about to get dunked on hard, real hard. I think that, as this technology advances, there are going to be problems solved that we didn't even think about. There are going to be, that's the thing, is that we are only able to comprehend things at a limited level. We can only compute, we can only process so quickly, right? So when you add more layers, right, it's like trying to hook a donkey up to a cart and say, we got to get the watermelons to the thing, right? And then like that, it's like that versus, I don't know, to compare it to like a whole bunch or a fleet of semis hauling these things, and then instead of going, over just kind of like, we made like a dirt trail, it's like all of these like highways and things are built to, accommodate for these semis hauling these watermelons in this stupid example that I've already dedicated to, so now I'm stuck with it, right? But that's the difference. It's like us versus these things figuring these. It can do. My point is that it can do it much more efficiently and at much faster rates, right? And it can get to a point where it can start solving problems that we haven't even arrived at yet. We haven't even thought to consider what happens when you get to this, this crossroads, and then it can solve that issue and then progress, right? So it's one of those things where it is going to be the case. And beyond that, it's not, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea where it goes from there. But at some point, I imagine that this technology will be used to create, materials, not just designs, but materials that make what we have currently completely and totally and laughably obsolete, right? There are certainly, have you ever remember when you were a kid and like you made something out of Legos, right? I'll bet you I know what it was. The first thing that most of us make, right? The first thing that we make with Legos is it's usually a cube with a window and a door, right? It's a house. It's just a flat sides, a flat top, and you got a door and you got a window. Great, you made that, right? And you kind of expand on that and you kind of mess around and you make what you consider to be a really, there's a lot of detail in this. I put a lot of work into this. And you go over to your friend's house. Everybody's got that one friend who's just like really, really good at Legos, right? You got 2 hands, you got 2 feet, you got an eyes and a brain and all that, right? But your friend is just a lot better at it. And you look at the stuff he made, maybe, okay, like, and people are saying, well, those are the kids who just like bought their parents bought them the crazy big Lego sets and then they made the really complicated thing by following instructions. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the kids who actually have massively expansive brains and they create just massively more complicated things, right? With Legos. And you think, I didn't even think of that. I made this house and I was like, Legos are pretty cool. You can make houses with them, right? That is the full extent of my understanding with Legos. Legos are fun blocks that you use to make little cube houses with, right? At some point, you don't even consider that you can make other things, right? you got Timmy, who makes something that you had not even considered was possible with Legos, right? But here it is, right? This is the type of thing that we're going to get shown, right? Not just in the knife world, but I think with a lot of things. Hey, silly humans, have you considered this? No, of course you haven't, right? You're still stuck here. So after a few calculations, here's what I spit out, and it solves a lot of problems, right? It also creates, potentially a major benefit in this specific area or whatever. This is very generalized. So I'm getting lost in what I'm saying because it's impossible to. All I'm doing is just saying, wouldn't that be neat, right? I'm going to rub my magic brain lamp and just see what comes out, right? Just wish. But yeah, it is going to be super duper weird, right? A lot of things are going to change. There are going to be a whole bunch of things that become obsolete and silly very, very quickly, right? And it's going to create kind of a mess. It's going to be really interesting to watch unfold, but it's also going to create a mess, right? I can't even begin to imagine what type of problems, right? When somebody uses this technology for the first time, and I think it'll be just a little bit, not maybe before we start seeing the start of this, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 5 years. I have no idea. I can't possibly, calculate it or begin to think that I could. But as soon as somebody successfully uses this technology to make something just in our little knife world that no one has ever seen before, because it's going to happen. There's going to be an industry-changing thing. Some insane, oh my God, this freaking robot just created something that makes everything dumb, right? At some point it'll happen, right? It's like the first time that they're like, hey, what if we made the wheel round? And the other cavemen are just like, oh, geez, that makes things way easier, right? That's going to happen. That's why we use that expression, reinventing the wheel, right? That will happen. There will be a new wheel, right? When that happens, it will be massively beneficial for certain parties. And it will also create a gigantic problem for other parties. I've thought about this a lot. How can it affect me as an knife reviewer? A lot of people would say, oh, well, I can understand why some people will think you, Metal Complex, are, you don't have to worry about it. You can just continue to review whatever it is that gets spit out by this world, right? But there are people who could also use artificial intelligence to collect continuous data on my channel, my personality, right? If you were, let's say that my channel is the most successful. I'm not saying that it is, but let's say at some point in the future, my channel becomes the most successful, right, human-run knife channel, right? Something about my channel makes it more successful than anything else. Well, somebody with an AI built specifically to collect data from, YouTube channels that are successful in very specific niches, right? Collect it, analyze it, and churn out a more goldener egg of that. We already have AI that can, take voice data and then create a new voice that sounds exactly the same with the same inflections, the same personality. It sounds the same, right? And then they can make it say whatever they want, right? If we have artificial intelligence that can manipulate and create art, right? Who's to say that they can't create videos, right? Who's to say that the technology, when it comes to CGI, let's say it gets so advanced that they can create the audio, they can create the video, they could, or they don't have to fake the video, they can actually create the things, right? And then it can all be optimized and jammed down our throats and sold and blah, blah, blah. You could easily say that at some point I'll be completely and totally replaced by a Metal Complex 2.0 that is just substantially better at everything that the human version of me does here on YouTube, right? And then it will optimize that process and change it and make it better, right? Every flaw that I have, every issue that everybody's ever had with me as a human being, I think it's plausible to think that at some point an AI could, reproduce a better version of me, right? And then I would be made obsolete, which is the scary part, right? That's the part that everybody freaks out about. It's me and everything that I am and everything that I do for a living, it can be replaced by something better, something that is artificial but better. And I think for a while, at least this is the human being in me, I think for a while, human beings are going to continue to want the human element in things. But I think our ability to differentiate between the human element and the artificial elements is going to become increasingly lessened. I think that we like to think that we're able to tell, right? But I don't know about you guys, but with art, I have no idea. I'm already bamboozled by just art. I've also been fooled many times by articles, right? Where at the end of the article, someone says, it's like an article on, ironically, like the potential dangers of AI generated information. And I'm like, oh, this is making a lot of points. It's a good thing that we still have, people behind this. And then at the end of it, they, reveal that the entire article was in fact written by AI. That was terrifying for me. I was like, oh man. But that's the simplest form of it, right? So I don't have any answers that will help. If you have fears about this stuff, there's nothing I can say to like help make people think, that it's going to be okay. I have no idea, right? I think we're all in for a crazy ride, but I have hope and faith that people will make the right choices with this, right? Not wield it in a way that is irresponsible. And I truly do believe that we have a long time before we approach this irreversible switch, right? That just messes everything up. I don't think people are ready to completely and totally relinquish control. And so I think that for a long while, we will still have our hands on the steering wheel. And I'm ready to see what happens, right? I mean, this is the type of thing where I've accepted that I just can't change it. I also try to remind myself that this is just the weird thing that's happening in our time. You could say, you look back at history, and a lot of things that changed the entire the way that society worked and functioned. A lot of that stuff, these transitional events, were probably just as scary and confusing and worrying, as the transition that I think we might be about to make. I don't know, right? But if you go to like a primitive civilization, right? At some point, you think about when we came over here, and the Native Americans who lived here, we had a lot of technology that was like, they were like these. I don't know who these people are, but the stuff that they make and have is so advanced that it's terrible, it's evil, it's and in a lot of ways I guess they were right. Maybe that was a bad comparison, but it was a transitional event where it was partially true and partially not true. There's a lot of things that could not have been seen, I guess. I don't know. This entire thing is getting away from me, and I've realized there's no way to talk about this without it getting away, right? And no matter who you are, what your stance is, or what your fears are, or what your there are people out there who think that the advancement of artificial intelligence is 100% good and it's only going to make things better. And okay, there's a lot of different perspectives. I imagine it'll have a super weird and interesting effect on the knife world. So oh boy, this is the weirdest episode of the Knife Guy I've ever done. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Let's just see what happens. What else can we do, right? I think that's what I was about to say. I have no choice but just to go, okay, here we go, I guess. Honestly, it just feels like cranking up to the peak of a roller coaster, and we got on it already. We're already on it. We can't get back off it. We're already on the roller coaster, and it's going to the top whether we want to or not. And it kind of feels like that panicky, like we're getting up there, and it's just we don't know, right? It's going to get to the top, but the difference here is that we know what a roller coaster does when you get to the top. It goes down, and it's kind of scary, but it's a fun ride, right? I hope that that's what this roller coaster with AI is going to be like, but, maybe not. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I'm going to keep doing things the way that I've been doing them, but I don't know. I have no idea, right? It's an interesting thought to think how AI will affect the pocket knife industry, but my more immediate concern is how is it going to affect the platform that I utilize for a living? Well, it's your problem. You chose YouTube. That's why I have everybody's job, no matter what your job is, no matter what you do, there's, it's kind of a worrying thing, I have no idea. It could make things easier for us. It could make things where I have no idea. I think all we can do at this point is speculate. So, well, I guess we'll see. Here we go. Up the roller coaster together. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's today's episode of the Knife Guide. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_conflicts. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.